This is IA Forward, your playbook for success as an independent insurance agent. Here to help you knock it out of the ballpark are your hosts, Shane Tatum and Tonya Lead.
Welcome to IA Forward. You know, a few episodes back, we talked about personal brand and what that looked like on social media, when you're out in public in the community. But something that we haven't talked about is creating our agency brand.
You want me to actually be the expert on this. Is that what you're kind of backing me into a corner in my most uncomfortable zone, branding?
I think that the amalgam of our knowledge could help our listeners.
Maybe so. Well, I actually have experience here. A little bit of reality is that I did this, went through the typical agency branding failure. We started as we're still a small town organization, but we started as a small town organization name, Huntington Insurance Agency from Huntington, Texas.
40 years ago, woohoo, and we're still doing it.
We're still doing it. And we've been through a few iterations at this point. And what happens to us in the independent agency space is that we see the exclusive big brand channels. We see our carriers that write direct. We see different pieces and really we see other organizations. Maybe we have friends that work for really exciting tech companies, or maybe they started or founded a company, and we kind of get this comparison as a thief of joy kind of thing going on because we're just an insurance agency. That's terrible to think like that. It's, hey, we get to be an insurance agency, specifically an independent insurance agency. There's that lens, and there's a lot to this that we get caught up on, and I was the chief sinner of this little problem that I perceive is a little bit of a problem. So Huntington Insurance, and then in the late 90s, we changed the name to Integra, and we even messed up because that was the day of the financial superstore concept, and instead of being Integra Insurance, we named our organization Integra Financial Group. And then we had to come back 6 or 7 years later and file a DBA for Integra Insurance Services to be more insurance specific because we weren't really financial anything. We were insurance. We went through that whole thing, that the economy in the world and the exciting new thing, and it happened to us and we got sucked into it. And we even did some really, really bad branding things around IG, Integra Group, IG Insurance. We did a whole bunch of messed up stuff.
Okay, I didn't know that. Somehow I had missed that part of this journey.
Mid 2000s, really around the whole Integra Financial Group. Where do we go? What do we do? We really, really messed this up. I messed this up. Let's not say we, because there's several folks in the organization that would say, don't drag me into that decision. That was all Shane. They were right. I was really trying to find our way and tripping and falling through this whole process. And in the end, none of it really mattered. It matters, but the thing I was trying to do was not really the thing that mattered. What happened in the late 2000s, like 2009, 2010, I finally connected with branding organization, a marketing and branding firm out of your state in Louisiana, and I needed help. And they were actually our second branding and marketing firm that we'd worked with. And one of the principals there said to me that really stuck was the brand needed to reflect your culture and who you were, and it needed to be simplified. It didn't need to be something that you are not, because you, the people that are of the organization, that's what really matters. All of these companies with these brands, they're just people, and choosing that brand needs to reflect the person and the people behind the brand, which ironically, the funny thing about that is most agency owners or most agents starting independent agencies today are actually picking and choosing brands that are not truly a reflection of who they are.
When I was first starting out in the radio business full time, I was on the air, and then I was also working on the sales and promotional side as well. And most people that are on the air have an on-air name. It's just a thing. And I have a really weird last name. When you look at my name, it looks like Tonya lied, right? Because my last name is spelled Lied. And that's a really weird last name. And I thought, this is confusing. I need to do something else, right? And so I decided to just make it Tonya Lee because that's easy. I don't have to change in my brain what I'm going to say. I just kind of leave that last consonant off, right? Makes sense. And what happened was I was starting out full-time in radio. Part-time, I worked somewhere else, but full-time in radio, I was in my hometown. Well, all that did was create confusion. And so I was trying to work on the sales and promotional side as Tonya Lead with a D, Lied, and then on air, I was Tonya Lee, and it didn't make any sense. It was the antithesis of simplify. And I'm sitting here trying to create my business brand, but it's two different business brands, and that doesn't make any sense. And I was in a very unique position working on both sides of the radio industry because usually you're either a personality or you're a salesperson, you're not both. And I had an excellent brand mentor come to me and say, look, Tonya, just stop. You're going to be Tonya Lead. You are working in your hometown. Both of your parents are very well known, very well respected. Stop being stupid. STOOPIT, stupid. And that was the first time I had ever heard somebody say that to me. And I'm sitting here trying to create something when my business brand has already been created for me. And I see so many agents doing this. You have already created a brand in your community, but instead of being James Smith Insurance, you want to be Big Dog Dudes Insurance. Well, what does that even mean?
That's exactly what I'm trying to say about it's got to be a reflection of who you are, and it's got to be a reflection of what you're known in the community for. Most of the new agencies that are created in the United States today are created by producers or former captive agents. They're very rarely created by people who just went and got their license and said, hey, I'll open up a property and casualty insurance agency. That just doesn't happen because you can't get carrier contracts. You can't really get off the ground. Most of the time, it's obviously from people who are inside the industry and have some level of experience. And that's where they really should be. And I think there's this thing because most of these individuals come out of working for a really big brand that it's sort of their way of announcing the arrival. Hey, I am here. I'm no longer underneath this other brand. And that's where it starts to go awry. Like, that's great. Like, I get it. But back to your point, the customers, the clients, and more important, the community, those individuals, those people already know who you are. So when you go create, what did you say? Big Dog Insurance, whatever that is that you think you need to be, you actually did the opposite of what you were trying to do. You actually created brand confusion. Is it even going to be attractive to my prospect base, to my customer base? And then here's the big one. And we had a bank here in our community rebrand a few years ago. And the mistake they made is that they forgot to check that their domain name was going to follow their brand name. They literally forgot to do this because when you went and put in their name.com, it went to a bank in Australia, not a bank in Huntington, Texas or East Texas where they were based. And so they had a major snafu here where they had to kind of scramble and fix this problem. What did you just do? There's so many things you have to do when you're trying to create this brand that you accidentally hide yourself in the process, which is exactly what you don't want to do.
Did you know that IA Forward accidentally did that to the state of Iowa?
I did not know that.
Yes, so the state of Iowa did this huge initiative to promote the state of Iowa called IA Forward. And when they went online to try to get iaforward.com and get all of their placeholders on social media, we had already taken them. So yeah, that happened to the state of Iowa because of us.
I'm sorry that we did that to y'all, but IA stands for Independent Agency. I did not know that, so cool fact about IA Forward. But I think we overthink this. In the words of the infamous Justin Hoosman, just stop it.
I've seen so many agents actually put off starting their agency because they can't figure out what they want to call it. And they end up putting this amalgam of things together because it's this person's initial, it's this person's initial, and it's their dog's. And I'm just going, no. People aren't going to be able to find you. When you're out in the community, they know who you are. I mean, I'm a branding person. This is what I do. And if I ever started an insurance agency, I can promise you it is going to be Tonya Lead Insurance. And I do have kind of this weird last name. And I'm going to play on the fact that when you see my last name, it looks like I lied. I mean, I have a mom who is an attorney. And I promise you, we used that in a very humorous way. My mom was a meme before memes were a thing because it was something unique. But I harnessed something about her, something about our family that was weird, quirky, and memorable. And even if your name is John Smith and you are John Smith Insurance, we can turn that into, insurance for the everyday guy because you're John Smith. I mean, there is something about your name, something about who you are that we can make so much more memorable than Round Rock Insurance.
This getting caught up and not being able to sort of move forward because we're so worried about this has its foundations with many agents that I talk to around when I go to sell, when I go to exit, it's going to make me more valuable to have this brand. Let me clear the air on this one. Unless you create an organization that is going to survive, the brand is going to survive the acquisition, which most of the time does not happen, okay? Most of the time, if you grow an organization to a sizable level where you actually go onto the radar by a private equity backed organization or a publicly traded organization, somebody like a Gallagher or a Marsh Mac or something like that, your brand is not what they're worried about. They want your book of business. And that means you've got to get in that 10, 15, $20 million a year revenue category to even get on their radar, first and foremost. If you're like the majority, and I mean super majority, like 85+% of us, then it's all about the quality of your book of business. It's about your profitability. It's about the people that you have. That is what's going to make your book of business valuable. It is not going to be this brand that you're spending ridiculous energy on trying to create something that in the end, nobody really cares. And I hate to be that blunt, but it's the quality of the book of business that matters.
Now, I love a cool logo. I love a simple, effective website. I'm not saying that you don't need to create a business brand. And I think these things are more important than Shane does. And I'm just going to put that out there. But I enjoy creating those things for people. I enjoy watching people's ideas develop to get what they want. That being said, if you're trying to decide between spending $10,000 on a website and creating this really cool logo and all of the things that go along with that, and having to take out a loan to make that happen, stop. You don't need to spend $10,000, $20,000, $40,000 creating a brand before you've created your business.
I love it. That is the point. If we could just sum it all up, that's it. Don't waste money creating something and trying to do something or pay this other firm to do something that just in the end is not going to make the difference between you being successful or not being successful. That's the point.
I was working with an agent one time and he was so excited that he was getting a billboard. He'd had his agency, I guess, about 6 months, and he was spending a stupid STOOPIT amount of money every month. He was looking at going into this contract for a year. And I told him, I said, it would be so much better to spend a quarter of this money investing in creating relationships, referral networks. Like, let's do this a different way. And he was just adamant about getting this billboard. And we talked about it for about 2 weeks. And I finally said, look, okay, I need your why. Like, there is a why behind this. And he's like, I really think that it makes me look bigger than I am. And I'm like, okay, but why is that important? And we got to the fifth why. And his fifth why was, well, it's on my ex-wife's way to work, and she is going to have to see my face every single day. And I'm like, okay, so if you want to spend $2,500 a month to upset your ex-wife, then know that that's why you're doing this, but it's not going to help your agency. Now, this person is no longer an insurance agent and he's now selling used cars. But that being said, obviously it didn't work. But if this is important to you, if you're trying to be bigger than what you are, then let's back up and keep asking yourself why until we get to the real reason.
This brings to my brain the softball recruiting world that we went through. We think about, okay, well, I want it to make me appear bigger than I am. I need to be something more. I need that. That's a societal issue, and I think it's an issue for a lot of agencies. Yeah, I love, obviously, you joining a group of some sort, you having the resources to be successful. But when it comes to the brand and what's going on and the networking and all of that, I love hanging on to your smallness for as long as possible. And the reason I do is because, one, it's more profitable, but two, it allows you to really know your business in and out and really be able to set up processes correctly so that when you do hire people and you are starting to grow, that you can be really, really successful around everything that you do because you understand all the ins and outs of your business. I love that. In the softball recruiting world, we went through this phase. I see a lot of people spending all their energy on the recruitment. I've got to get recruited, when really the energy that needs to be spent is in the player development and the practice. And what we're doing is we're putting the cart before the horse. We're saying, hey, my child wants to play at Texas A&M, LSU, Alabama. Those are her colleges of choice. Okay, well, the first question is, well, can she play there? Well, I don't know. I just need to get in front of that coach. And, well, do you? Are you really ready to get in front of that coach? Are you good enough? Do you have the development done? What kind of a player are you? Well, in college softball, that's like saying that you want to be the starting quarterback at Clemson. Do you understand what that looks like? Do you understand the talent that it requires and the skill set that requires? That's what we do, is we do the same thing in our agencies when we're starting out. We need to put the work in. We need to grow the book of business. We don't need to spend our energy on trying to make ourselves look bigger and better when we're not ready to be bigger and better.
I want to talk to a different sector of our listenership on this one. You've built a good agency, it's profitable, it's successful, and you've decided you want to expand. So you built the agency as John Smith Insurance. But now that you're at $3.5 million, $4 million, you're very profitable, you want to rebrand so you can expand your offerings. What are your thoughts?
I still don't think it matters. I think it's a bad move. We're overthinking the situation, and I think we're undervaluing what we've already established and what we've built. I went through this. I do not believe that we would have been able to create the Integra organization of today by staying Huntington Insurance from Huntington, Texas. It was a small town insurance agency, and we were trying to build an agency aggregation group, and we were trying to do this across multiple states, multiple metro areas. It depends on what we're talking about here.
However, could you have kept the agency as Huntington Insurance and created Integra separately as two different brands?
Actually, that's what we did. Because we were worried about the local retail business, we kept operating as Huntington actually all the way until 2009. So 1998 was the Integra launch. We did a duplicate brand, sort of a dual brand environment locally and then outwardly with the Integra brand, until in 2009 we decided we're going to basically just go all in on a single brand. So we did that for almost 10 years. And the hindsight there was it probably wouldn't have mattered if we'd have just gone all in 1998, and we would have had it figured out. It would have been fine. But we did it the best way that we knew how. It worked for us as well in that it kept our local community customers connected while we went out to the big city and did these other things. There's that thing. But if we wouldn't have been starting a group, we were just trying to grow our independent agency, and we were just trying to expand beyond our 1 or 2 counties of operations and become more East Texas, or maybe go across the state of Texas into different areas. I just don't think it would have mattered. What would have been more important important is that we own it, that we were committed to that, and that we kept doing it over and over and over again. And that's where I think that next question that pops into my brain, well, Shane, Tonya, I did this, I created this thing, and now you're telling me I shouldn't have, so what do? I don't think you do anything. You own it. You keep going. The thing that you can mess up on is trying to circle back around after you've established some agency brand at 3-4 million in premium. Well, you've done something right because you went from 0 to that. So just own it. Just keep going with it. Whether you're John Smith Insurance or whether you're Thumbtack Insurance, whatever your brand that you created, once you reach that success level, you just own it. You just keep going.
And I realize that we're probably not going to change your mind. If you're looking at setting up an agency and you want to be Big Dog Dude's Insurance, that if you have made this decision, we are not going to change your mind. And that's okay. I was actually looking at something earlier and it popped up that there is an insurance agency out there that is Beauty Queen Insurance. Now, if you know anything about me, I've been involved in the pageant industry for several decades. But I just thought, oh my gosh, why would anybody name their agency Beauty Queen Insurance? Because I cannot imagine any man that I know that would pick up the phone and call Beauty Queen Insurance to list their home, auto, or their RV. Like, it's probably not going to happen with the majority of men out there. And I think I see the same challenges happen with men going into the industry as they think, oh my gosh, this sounds so great. This sounds so big. And I'm like, well, if 82% of buying decisions have the majority of female involvement, be careful. Be careful of what you choose and why you're choosing it. And is it friendly to the other gender?
That's a big deal. Just talking about who's making the buy-in decisions. And again, I'm going to go back to, is it a reflection of you? The one caveat to that is, are you going to be a niche player? Outdoorsman Insurance, and you're going to focus on writing hunting leases, and you're going to focus on writing big outdoor events or whatever. Well, you're going to operate in a niche, right? And that is going to pigeonhole you a little bit, because when you think about Outdoorsman Insurance, you're never going to think, well, that's where I need to go for my auto and home insurance. It literally screams at you that you're a specialty insurance operation. There's reasons to create brand around niche agencies if that's your goal. But if you are going to be a personal lines insurance agency and maybe do some small commercial, then you need to be careful, to your point, about actually what you're going to name your agency. And if you're going to name your agency that accidentally kind of wedges you into this brand corner, then you're going to actually create a problem for yourself.
I was talking with an agent earlier in the year out in California, and she had put a cannabis reference in her agency name. And she was one of the first people in California that was insuring cannabis dispensaries. And she built this niche, and then she said that she would get so mad because her friends and her clients, she would see them on social media asking the question, can anybody suggest someone good to place my car insurance with? And she's like, hello, I'm here. I handle all of this stuff. But she so put herself in a very specific niche. And at the point that insurance started to be a challenge and she really needed to expand, she picked the wrong name.
Happens all the time. What would be really funny is if that particular agency would have been located in our neck of the woods, the Bible Belt, then that would have really been interesting. Be careful about what you're naming your agency in different regions of the country where things are different. I think it's kind of comical that that particular agency owner is having to raise their hand and say, hey, I'm sitting right here. I can do this for you. But again, the brand that you created that you thought was so cool and great and awesome and all this stuff, it can actually work against you. And it's going to be very difficult for John Smith Insurance or Sally Sue Insurance to work against you. I'm sorry, it really is. It's funny enough that still to this day, I have people that I know that I am friends with, 30-year friends, who will ask me, so like, what kind of insurance do you do? I get that question all the time. In my mind, and again, we have to put ourselves in the consumer's mind. I'm thinking, obviously, we do auto, home, toys, commercial. We do all these lines of business, right? Why don't you know that? You buy insurance, you're a customer, and it's just not reality. They think that, well, what kind of insurance do you do? Well, is it health insurance? Everybody always goes to health insurance for some reason. I don't know why. That's my experience. And I'm sitting here going, why do people automatically go to health insurance? I don't know if it's something in the Integra brand that says that. I don't know what out there in the marketplace that we've accidentally created, but we've had that problem in our East Texas community of not being as vivid around our biggest line of business is personal insurance and then commercial insurance, property and casualty. And so it's already hard enough for the consumers that you're after, for the business owners that you're after, to truly understand who you are and what expert you're going to be for them. Don't overcomplicate it by creating a brand that doesn't resonate with who you are.
I'm going to leave us today with this quote from James Harden. Be the best you can be and don't try to do what you see others doing.
Attitude's a choice. Make a great one.
Bye, y'all.
Ready to get the ball rolling with your independent agency? Learn more at IntegraAgent.com. That's IntegraAgent.com. Thank you for joining us on IA Forward. Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now or learn more at IAForward.com.